So it wasn't very long ago that I mentioned that I have a deep distaste for the anime series Yuki Yuna is a Hero. With the surprising success I've been seeing recently with some of my more long-form videos and requests for more videos like this, I figured what better topic to tackle than an in-depth discussion on why I have a hate boner for Yuki Yuna so much. But wait, I did that video like months ago, didn't I? And I did nothing but compare it to Madoka Magica. And that's where I was wrong. I recently did a rewatch of Yuki Yuna as a Hero after letting it sit in the hate chamber of my brain for about a year. I went in this time with literally no expectations, knowing what the series would give me in the end and the want to overanalyze the show to find a way to prove if the ending was as contrived as I believed it to be. Be warned, if you haven't seen Yuki Yuna as a Hero or any of the Yusha de Aru series in general, you're about to be spoiled hard. That is, if you care about that kind of stuff. I've searched and searched online about the ending to Yuki Yuna and found tons of people who shared the same thoughts as I did, that the ending giving back the physical abilities to Yuna and her friends was nothing but a cheap way to end the series, that it made the entire tension of the series feel meaningless, and that it felt more like a slap to the face than a satisfying ending. However, what if I told you that the ending was hiding in plain sight the whole time? Not only that, but the entire plot of the series was hiding right in front of our faces. Beat by beat, exactly what is going to happen. Currently, fans of the show might be thinking about how the tarot card Death kept popping up from time to time in the early episodes, and by thinking that, you're actually on the right track. But it's much deeper than just the Death card. What I'm about to detail is going to take an extremely long time and might sound like rambling until I finally make my point. So please, bear with me. Yuki Yuna is a Hero begins with our main characters, who are members of the Hero Club, performing a puppet show about a hero saving villagers from the legendary Demon King. It sounds much like a classic fable. The puppet show is being performed at a local elementary school as one of the club activities for the Sanshu Middle School Hero Club. It's here where we meet our main characters, the club president Fu Inobazaki and her sister Itsuki, their friends Togo Mimori and Yuna Yuki. These four girls, who make up the original Sanshu Middle School Hero Club, live by 5 main commandments that they call the 5 tenets. These 5 tenets are as follows. Number 1, give a good greeting. Number 2, try not to give up. Number 3, sleep well, eat well. Number 4, if you're troubled, talk to someone. And number 5, you're likely to succeed if you try. These 5 tenets are the main basis for not only the Hero Club, but the entire plot of the series going forward. The Hero Club's 5 tenets. Number 1, give a good greeting. This first tenet can refer to many things, like the way the girls are introduced to the audience via their normal lives, or how Fu introduces them to the world of being a hero, or even how the 5th girl, Karin, is introduced into the group later in the series. It could even be how Washio Sumi, or if we're being really specific, Togo Mimori, is introduced to Yuna Yuki in her amnesiac state that we learn of later after the effects of the Sange. No matter what this tenet specifically targets, it means that you should always give a good introduction of who you are to those you are meeting. The Hero Club's 5 tenets. Number 2, try not to give up. Giving up is something a hero shouldn't do. After all, that's pretty much Yuna's personality throughout most of the series, and she reflects that to most of the other girls. Even if the other girls have moments of wanting to give up, Yuna snaps them back into wanting to try and succeed. This second tenet can point to the trials the girl face and to not give up during them. Or it could be outlining that the Taisho won't give up in their quest to use the heroes as sacrifices. The Hero Club's 5 tenets. Number 3, sleep well, eat well. The Taisho revere the current set of heroes and treat them with the utmost respect while on their beach trip. They do in fact sleep and eat well on this trip, but my interpretation of this tenet comes straight out of the idea of the Monkai the heroes use. By eating well or using their Monkai, they sacrifice something important to them physically. When we meet Sonoko Nogi and we learn that she indulged in the use of Monkai 20 times, We see that she's become a literal human log. She's completely bedridden. The Hero Club's 5 tenets, number 4, if you're troubled, talk to someone. This tenet is a pretty ongoing theme in the show, the girls talking to each other through troubling situations, including with the introduction of Sonoko and the information we learn about the Monkai. However, the concept of voice is something extremely important when we figure out what the Monkai takes from each girl. Togo loses hearing in her left ear, Karin goes completely deaf, Itsuki loses her voice entirely, and Yuna becomes a living corpse. Fu, who gathered these girls to join the Hero Club, is the only one who doesn't suffer from a sound-related ailment. Though, if we want to get really specific, the idea of no longer hearing her sister be able to speak is something that Fu lost, even if it wasn't due to her own Monkai. The Hero Club's 5 tenets, number 5, you're likely to succeed if you try. By the beginning of the ending arc, the Sanshu Middle School Hero Club continues to try and try again in their quest to defend the Shinju, the Jukai, and their own world, with the hopes that one day they'll be able to recover from their ailments like the Taisha said they eventually would. Like this tenet suggests, they tried and succeeded in their goal. In the final episode, Togo is reading a story to the lifeless Yuna, crying about the idea that she has lost her best friend to a fate worse than death. The story fairly sums up these 5 tenets. As Togo begins to mourn, Yuna is able to reply, snapping completely out of her coma. Together, the Hero Club's 5 tenets give us a general idea of what this series will be about. A group of heroes that will go through problems and succeed only if they try and never give up. Now, while the tenets give us so much information of what this series generally is going to be about, it's the scenes where Itsuki is performing divinations with her tarot cards that give us the meat of what the series is truly about. In most circumstances, like I mentioned before, you probably really only noticed the death card, because it played the most prominent role and was outright called an omen by Togo. Now let it be known, I'm no expert in tarotology or cartomancy. A lot of this is just going to be based around information I'm interpreting and what makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. Let's begin with Itsuki's first divination, seen in episode 2. Itsuki's first divination uses what looks like the healing spread, and you can see that on screen here. Of the 6 possible cards, she only reveals 3 cards before revealing the 4th card as the Hanged Man. Let's take a look at what each card location represents in this spread, and then what cards Itsuki reveals. The definition of the healing spread is as follows. Most people have some type of trauma in their past, and these traumas can leave emotional blocks. These blocks can hinder the ability to fully enjoy and engage in life. The healing spread can be a powerful tool to explore and even heal these emotional blocks by examining the areas of life that remain fixed and unchanging. These fixed areas, which are different for each individual, represent those things which remain unresolved. These unresolved issues are emotional blocks. At the very top, we have card number 6, which Itsuki reveals to be the Lovers. In the healing spread, card number 6 is meant to convey the general idea of the divination, the guiding principle of the entire story. The Lovers can represent the idea of overcoming trials, love, beauty, or attraction. On the following row, we have 2 cards. On the left is card number 4, and on the right is card number 5. Card 4's purpose is to disclose the lessons that can be learned from this divination, while card 5's purpose is to give advice to proceed past the emotional block that will later be revealed in the divination. Card 4 is revealed as the Magician, a card that represents the idea that success comes with creativity and commitment. Card 5 is revealed as Judgment, which represents exactly what its name implies, judgment. Unfortunately, we don't get to see what cards 2 and 1 are, and that would allow us to see the emotional block's effect on past relationships and figure out what that emotional block is itself. However, Itsuki does reveal card number 3, that's the final card to be revealed in this divination. The card that focuses on how the unknown emotional block would affect present relationships. Itsuki reveals for this the Hanged Man, a symbol of sacrifice. While this divination is only a partial story, to equate this to the plot of Yuki Yuna as a hero makes it damn near spot on. The lovers, which represent the overall idea that whatever trials the hero club will face will be overcome if they just commit to it, much like their 5 tenets tell them to. Try not to give up. When they approach the idea of sacrifice, essentially manifesting in the ideas of the Mankai and the Sange, the heroes will have to make the most accurate judgment that allows them to proceed to their end goal. Again, this connects back to the 5 tenets. You're likely to succeed if you try. This first divination is a huge expansion onto the 5 tenets and gives an even more detailed explanation as to what's about to happen. Sacrifices will need to be made through this journey, and the judgment of these heroes will be tested. However, in this whole divination, the most intriguing element is not the end goal, but the numbers associated with each card. We covered the numbers of each card in the spread, but not those physically attached to each card. Of all the cards in the first divination, the one that stands out the most is the Hanged Man, as it is the one Itsuki stops on, and a lingering cut of this card is the final cut of this particular scene. The Hanged Man is trump card number 12. 12 is also the total amount of uniquely named vertexes that the heroes will face. Judgment is trump card 20 and the Magician trump card 1. The two of these equate to a simple math problem that you have to solve to figure out how many fairies that Sonoko Nogi has. She has 20 Mankai fairies, plus her original single fairy. That's 21 fairies. Truthfully, this is a pretty useless fact as Sonoko tells us this directly, but it is interesting that the idea of the numbers 20 and 1 appear this early in the series. These two cards could also easily reference the most amount and least amount of Sange experienced, that being Sonoko's 20 Sange versus Fu's single Sange. Of course, at the time of this divination, we haven't yet met Sonoko or even know what Mankai or Sange are, but we can easily use these facts to fill in what the unrevealed cards may have been trying to tell us, and that is, vaguely, whatever emotional block exists is affecting a past relationship negatively. Now, before we start equating this divination to the amount of udon noodles the girls eat, let's move on to the next divination in episode 3. This divination uses a different spread of 3 cards. This spread is ambiguous as there are tons of 3-card spreads. We're first going to look at what cards Itsuki reveals this time, and then figure out what spread may make the most sense. The 3 cards that Itsuki reveals are card number 15, the Devil, card number 16, the Tower, and card number 13, Death. The Devil represents fatality, the Tower, calamity, and Death symbolizes the end. These 3 cards together tell a story of complete and utter darkness. It doesn't really matter what the spread here is, whether it be the past, present, future spread, or the situation, action, outcome spread. There are tons of different 3-card spreads, and we're going to get the same story from each one, as each of these 3 cards symbolizes something dire. Starting with Death, let's talk about the significance of card numbers again. As we discussed earlier with the Hanged Man, depicting the number of unique vertexes, Death as a standalone card can imply that there is one enemy beyond those vertexes. Originally, I had thought there might be a relevance of Death to the 13th zodiac sign Ophiuchus, but unfortunately that role is taken by Scorpio, a vertex encountered 1 episode prior to this. So to associate Death with the role of the Taisha might be a little more accurate, as the Taisha are the ones responsible for the Sange. For the specific numbers of the Devil and the Tower, I couldn't find any specific meaning in them. Maybe someone else can find something, but I did find something strange that both cards are, respectively, 2 and 3 steps away from Death in their numerical count. Their differences add together to the total of 5, which brings us back to the 5 tenets of the Heroes Club. A hidden message in which that, if followed, will be the answer to Death. Of course, that's only one interpretation I came up with for this divination. A much more simplified, and much more possible one, may be the idea that this divination represents a trinity. With the virus that ended most of humanity, with the exception of Shikoku Island, representing the devil, and the Shinju, or God Tree, that protected Shikoku from the virus representing the tower, then we finally reveal the death card, number 13, representing the 13 vertexes. If we count Gemini as two separate beings, much like the heroes come to the surprise of having to fight the second half of Gemini in episode 8, then this would make sense. This interpretation, like I stated before, is an extremely streamlined one. It showcases the worst case scenario the heroes are trying to prevent. Defeat the vertexes or your world will end. So we've been talking for a long time about divination, and there's one final one that we witness in episode 4 that uses the previously seen healing spread. Instead, this time we're able to see the whole message. All 6 cards are revealed this time, and this divination also uses inversion with the cards, changing some of their meanings. For this final divination, we'll work our way up from the first to the final card. The first card, which represents the emotional block, is the moon. In the upright position, it tells us there is danger lurking nearby. The second card, that which holds the meaning to the block's effect on past relationships, is strength. In strength's inverted state, it implies weakness, discord, and disgrace. The third card, which, similarly, like the previous card, shows the effect of the block on present relationships, is the Hermit. Also in an inverted position, its meaning is fear or unreasoned caution. The fourth card that will tell us of the lesson we will learn from this story is the Star, the card of inspiration and hope. The fifth card is the card of guidance, the Fool. Its inverted nature implies carelessness and negligence. The sixth and final card, that of the guiding principle, is again death. We're going to look at the numbers associated with the cards first, and then finally link this all together. This time I'm just going to wipe the screen and place each card's number on its location. As we can see, at the top is Death's 13. In the middle we have 17 for the Star and 0 for the Fool. On the final row, we have 8 for Strength, 18 for the Moon, and 9 for the Hermit. For the bottom row, we can notice that both Strength and the Hermit are inverted, while the Moon is not. So for this circumstance, let's subtract both 8 and 9 from 18. This leaves us with a value of 1 for the bottom row. Now if you notice, for the next row, we won't change anything by subtracting the Fool's 0. Instead, what we're going to do is, because the Star occupies the slot that refers to the revelation, we're going to use it as our answer to death. So we're going to subtract Death's 13 from the Star's 17, giving us 4. Now remember, sacrifice was hinted at in our first healing spread, which was incomplete. If we refer back to the Hanged Man for this situation, we can interpret the numbers in the spread as 1 among 4 will sacrifice themselves to conquer death. The 4 would refer to the Hero Club prior to Karin's introduction, and the 1 would be none other than Yuna Yuki, who makes the biggest sacrifice in the final battle, causing her coma. This final divination tells the story of every character in a nutshell. As a general idea, this story is about a fate worse than that of death. The past people involved with this story, like Sonoko and Gin, are reduced to the weakest states possible, vegetation and demise. The current people involved with this story hold caution towards the unknown because of the possible dangers they're constantly faced with, whether that's the Taisha, the Vertexes, or the Sange. Every character will learn what it means to lose something close to them, and every character will neglect the way of life a hero is supposed to act. All of this will culminate in the worst possible solutions for them. The story is right here, before our faces, in episode 4, slightly hidden, as certain tarot cards are barely even shown on screen, and the main focus is really only placed on death. While death is the guiding idea behind the divination, we don't get the full story from that single card. By combining the ideas of the tenets and all of the divinations together, we get the full story for this series. Through the first divination, we can see how the characters will come to their success, and that's through sacrifice. Through the second divination, we can see what will happen if they do not fight to save the Shinju. And through the third divination, we can see what will happen to every single character in the current state of the world with the rules that currently exist. But because of the 5 tenets, we can see that these characters will push beyond the rules of this world by simply trying. Remember, the first guiding principle was the lovers, and to be cliché, that means the power of friendship. Yeah, I know I cracked on the whole power of friendship wins the day thing in my original video on Yuki Yuna, but it runs much deeper than just a reason that's there because it can be. Looking at it in this light, it was established extremely early on, even if very subtly, that in the end, that's what this story would be about. Even if it seemed at face value, nothing more than a little sister that wanted its turn at Madoka Magica's success. I rescind my statements of Yuki Yuna as a hero being a complete failure and living in the shadow of Madoka Magica.